Hi, I'm David Cogswell here with Joe Clute. Clute?
That's correct.
At Shamwari Private Game Reserve in Eastern Cape, South Africa. And this is Insider Travel Report. Fantastic place to be. It's a private game reserve with 7 lodges on it, and it's 25 square kilometers, or how many hectares?
25,000 hectares, David.
Wow. Yeah.
So perimeter fence of about 140 kilometers around here.
It's a beautiful place. We went yesterday and saw all the big 5 except for the leopards, and just boom, boom. It's a fantastic place. So now you've been here for 30 years. Can you talk to us a little bit about what Shamwari is all about, what it's for, what it offers, and especially directed to an American audience?
Right, David. So Shamwari is really, at the end of the day, all about being a sustainable conservation project. A very brief history of this area, of the Eastern Cape where we are based, is that it used to be one of the richest wildlife zones in Africa in terms of diversity many years ago. And then sadly man arrived in the 16, 17, 1800s and moved in, and agricultural expansion. And the end result of that is a lot of the wildlife was destroyed, sadly. So our mission at Shamwari has been over the last 30 years to bring back all the different animal species that occurred here many, many years ago. And we have largely accomplished that, except for a few species. If we can increase our land size a little bit bigger, we can bring back 1 or 2 more species like the spotted hyena and the wild dog, which used to be called the Cape hunting dog because they used to run around freely here in the olden days. So it's a massive conservation project. It's a sustainable project. The funds that we generate every year go straight back into the project. We try and expand the land size every year. And it's a holistic approach to conservation that we apply at Shamwari. It's not just about building fancy lodges and having people enjoy these lodges and going out to see the wildlife. It offers a lot of job opportunities for the local communities, and the unemployment rate in South Africa is really, really depressing at the moment. So these kind of projects like Shamwari offer a lot of socioeconomic benefits to the local communities, skills training, job creation, and we're busy with a lot of exciting projects that we're going to launch in the next couple of months as well, to help the local community. So we see Shamwari as, yes, it's a luxury private game reserve. We operate in that sector of the markets. We are primarily geared at luxury travel. Family travel is a big part of our business, romantic holidays. We have an explorer camp where you do walking trails on foot, so you experience all your entire experiences on foot with very, very well qualified guides. We have 2 born-free centers on the reserve where we rescue African cats from captive situations around the world, and we bring them back to these sanctuaries, and we use that as an education program for the local communities to teach them that wild animals should remain in the wild and they should not be put into captive situations. We have a wildlife rehabilitation center where we take injured wild animals, we rehabilitate them, and we put them back into the wild. We're very excited. We are, in all likelihood, going to launch our VulPro project over the next couple of months, where we're going to be setting up a breeding center for endangered Cape vultures and other vulture species in South Africa that are threatened. And we're very excited about that. It'll be the only second one of its kind in Africa. So if you look at all these various different facets that Shamwari offer, it's got to be seen as a sustainable, holistic experience.
And I think African lodges such as this are really one of the few ways that wildlife is protected. So for people who are concerned about losing the great wildlife, coming to a place like this is not only a great experience, you can feel that you're contributing to protecting these animals. I heard you were working on some new projects to protect against poaching, which is terrible. The rhinos being killed just for their horns. It's a horrible story, but but I know it's very difficult, but you're putting in some good new measures to try to help prevent that. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure, David. It's a very sad situation. Just to go back in history, around about the 1960s, there were an estimated 65,000 black rhino in East and Southern Africa. Today, there are less than 4,000 of those animals left. In the 1960s, there were less than 250 southern white rhino left in South Africa. And then a gentleman by the name of Ian Player started Operation Rhino. They managed to develop a drug where they could knock out rhinos, put them into containers and move them to safe areas. And the white rhino numbers built up to around about 25,000. And then in 2007 and 2008, the scourge of poaching started again. And their numbers have declined quite dramatically over the last 15 years or so. Difficult to estimate how many there are right now, but we reckon in the vicinity of about 17 or 18,000 left. So between Namibia, our neighboring country, and South Africa, we are responsible for about 85% of the world's rhino population. So we have a major responsibility to protect these species. So projects like Shamwari Private Game Reserve are very, very important in securing the future of these animals. We obviously have to protect our boundaries. We've had to spend a lot of money on anti-poaching activities, because the fundamental problem with the rhino situation is that the rhino horn, when it gets to the markets in the east, which are largely China and Vietnam, the horn sells at about $85,000 per kilogram. And that's the fundamental problem. So the animal, for these people, is worth more dead than alive. And there is no scientific evidence that there's any medicinal value in a rhino horn. It's like your nail or your hair. So it's a very sad situation. There's a massive education program that needs to happen in those countries to change the mindset there. That's something that we, unfortunately, in South Africa can't control. That has to happen in those countries. All we can do is protect the species that we have. So we've got a very strong anti-poaching team in place. These are very dedicated individuals that work. When we go to bed at night, they're out there patrolling the reserves. They have to. We have dogs. We use drones. We've had to become a lot more tech savvy, to use AI to be able to develop a system that is more proactive as opposed to reactive. One of the projects that we actually launching next week is called a rhino bracelet, where the rhinos will be fitted with a bracelet around their ankles. There's a lot of tech inside this little very, very strong casing that hangs around the ankle. It has a little solar panel on it to charge it, and it will detect any unusual rhino movement. It will then send an alert to our control room. So a grey alert will be a sort of moderate warning sign. An amber alert will be a little bit more serious, and a red alert will mean there's something really. There's also GPS coordinates that get sent out. So what happens then is that we then dispatch the drones to that particular location. We get thermal imagery so we can see what's happening in the bush at night. And then we dispatch the people on the ground to be able to see what the situation's all about. But the bottom line is that we have to develop systems that are more proactive as opposed to reactive to protect the species. And while a rhino horn, and the similar thing with ivory, with the elephant tusks. I mean, the slaughter of elephants in East Africa and Central Africa is horrific. Literally thousands of those animals are being slaughtered every year, and it's a story that's not really well told or well documented. But we have to develop these proactive systems so we can protect these species. It's our responsibility in this country, because we are lucky enough to have some of these animals around.
So what are you actually offering to a traveler from America or a family who comes to visit here? What's the package here altogether?
David, well, as I said, we specialize in the luxury sector of the market. Family travel is a big part of our business. We've got 2 dedicated family lodges. We take kids of all ages. You've got to be 4 and older to be allowed to go on safari. We sort of think that's a good age. At the end of the day, people come to these kind of places to enjoy the wildlife that we are very, very lucky to have in South Africa. The guides are extremely well trained, and they will offer an experience to the guests out in the bush there. For the families and the kids, the experience is driven at entertaining the child as opposed to the parent. We believe happy child, happy parent situation. So, on the family side, there's also all sorts of interesting initiatives that we have. We have two wonderful family lodges. We have a kids adventure center where the kids can go down zip lines and slides and climbing walls and all sorts of interesting activities. The guides spend a lot of time with the kids off the vehicle, looking at tracking and teaching them all sorts of little tricks in the bush, etc. The lodges are all rigged out with very nice wellness areas or spas for the adults to relax, to enjoy. But essentially, you go out in summer, early morning drives for about 3 to 4 hours, come back for a lovely breakfast. After breakfast, you have the choice of going to one of the born-free centres, or going for a guided walk, or going to the Wildlife Rehabilitation Centre. Then you have another opportunity after lunch to go out again for another 3 to 4 hours. You have a magnificent sunset. And you come back and have your evening meal. So there's a lot to offer. An ideal stay would be something in the vicinity of sort of 3 to 4 nights, we believe. And the important thing to mention is that the revenue that's generated from our international guests and our South African guests that come to us is all plowed back into the project. So, we'd like the guests to feel that they're contributing to the conservation project in some way, which is very important for us.
So and those days also in between the morning game drive and breakfast and the afternoon game drive is an open period where you can go to the pool, you can lie around, you can read, you can do whatever you want. So it's a really nice way to spend a few days. I would like to know a little bit about, I'm so curious when you, a person who's in a position such as yourself, how did you get to where you are? How did you get into this kind of work? 30 years is a long time, so you've got quite a career in it right now, but how did you get here? What were you doing before?
Well, I did a degree in economics and marketing, and I worked for a big beverage company in South Africa for many, many years. So I sold beer, essentially. But I always had a passion for the wildlife, and I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, and I met the individual that started Shamwari Game Reserve many years ago, a gentleman by the name of Adrian Gardner, and he told me what his vision was, and we then, it made a lot of sense to me. I joined in 1992, so I've been with Shamwari nearly 31 years now. Started as a guide, was the first guide at Shamwari, and in those days you had to teach yourself how to become a guide, but there weren't really many guide training schools around. So you had to learn on the job. I then moved on from guiding and started taking up the marketing of the product. So I used to travel around the world and abroad marketing Shamwari, because it was very difficult to compete with a new product in the safari industry in Southern Africa, because of the big brands like the Kruger National Park and the Serengeti, and the Okavango swamps in Botswana. Those are big brands. So to launch this brand into the international safari circuit took a lot of hard work. But Shamwari is situated in a fantastic part of South Africa. It's up the east coast. It's an hour's flight from Cape Town. Beautiful garden route drive along the way. It's an hour and a half from Johannesburg. It's in a malaria-free area, so family travel is, or for anybody really, there's no issues there. And as I mentioned earlier, the diversity in wildlife that you encounter in the Eastern Cape now and at Shamwari is fantastic. We've brought all these animal species back. We have the big five. We have black rhino, white rhino, elephant, lion, leopard, etc., cheetah. So it's a fantastic experience. Lots of bird life. And it's a holistic experience at the end of the day. It's not just about guests coming to enjoy luxury lodges and enjoying the bush experience. The revenue gets plowed back into the property. What we do for our local communities is very, very important to us. Primary healthcare in this region is really being challenged at the moment, so we're looking at bringing primary healthcare to our staff so they can have access to medical care on a regular basis. water availability is a big issue. Yeah, water is very, very scarce in this part of South Africa, and we've got to make sure that our communities have good, clean drinking water. So we've already launched those projects. So there's a lot happening in and around. It's just not. It's not just about looking at the wildlife and enjoying the luxury accommodation. The socioeconomic impact in the entire region is very, very important to us.
So we had obviously COVID, a huge disaster for the whole world, especially the travel industry, and I think especially for really special types of travel offerings as this, how so many businesses just went under during that period is quite scary. How are we doing now in terms of that coming back again?
Yeah, I mean, the COVID was just unprecedented. We went from 85% occupancy on the 20th of March to having 7 lodges closed a week later, when everybody was locked down. And nobody knew what to expect. That was the big thing. Everybody thought it was going to last 3 weeks, and then they said 3 months. And so it was a complete disaster, economically. And I think the big thing that people don't realize is the impact that it had on the local communities, because, there's no revenue coming in. We had to cap salaries that we could pay. Sadly, we had to let some staff go. So that two and a half year period, I don't ever want to experience again, and I don't think anybody in the world wants to experience that again. So that's a complete tragedy. Fortunately, the market has bounced back pretty quickly over the last sort of year, particularly the North American market. They were the first market to come back very, very strongly. And I guess we're at about 80% of our pre-sort of COVID occupancies right now. And if I look at the forward bookings, they're looking really, really promising. So we're very grateful for that. North American market came back quickly. The United Kingdom market has now started coming back. European market has been a little bit slow. I'm not sure if the situation in Ukraine and Russia has got something to do with that. But anyway, South America, we're hoping that will start coming back pretty soon when direct flights into South Africa come around, and I think it's going to be October or something like that through LATAM Airlines. So, yeah, about 75-80% of where we were pre-COVID, I think.
Well, that's hopeful. I appreciate your talking to me today. I wish everybody could come and see this for themselves, because you can't really express it in words, but it's really worth checking out for yourself. So I'm David Cogswell. This is Joe Klute at Shamwari Game Reserve in South Africa, and this is Insider Travel Report. Thank you.